Jean Baudrillard's theory of hyperreality. Jean Baudrillard's theory of hyperreality, a cornerstone of postmodern thought, challenges our traditional understanding of reality and representation. As we navigate an increasingly mediated world saturated with images and simulations, Baudrillard's ideas become ever more pertinent. This comprehensive exploration aims to unveil the nuances of hyperreality, examining its origins, key tenets, real-world examples, critiques, and enduring relevance in the digital age. The genesis of hyperreality, postmodern context. Baudrillard's theory emerged against the backdrop of postmodernism, a cultural and intellectual movement that questioned grand narratives and embraced a fragmented, pluralistic worldview. In the late 20th century, as media and technology proliferated, reality seemed to undergo a profound transformation. Hyperreality, as conceptualized by Baudrillard, signifies a state where the distinction between the real and the simulated becomes increasingly blurred. Explore the postmodern context that gave rise to Baudrillard's theory, emphasizing the impact of media, technology, and consumer culture. Consider the shift from a reality-centered worldview to one characterized by an abundance of simulations, challenging conventional notions of authenticity and representation. Simulacra and simulation, layers of hyperreality unveiled. At the core of Baudrillard's theory lies the concept of simulacra, representations that have no connection to an underlying reality. In Simulacra and Simulation, Baudrillard outlines 4 stages of the image's evolution, starting from a faithful copy and culminating in a simulation with no reference to reality. These layers of simulacra contribute to the dissolution of the distinction between the real and the simulated. Delve into the layers of simulacra, exploring examples that illustrate each stage. Consider the progression from a photograph as a representation of reality to a hyperreal simulation like a digitally manipulated image, emphasizing how the concept of simulacra evolves in the context of contemporary media and technology. Disneyland as the hyperreal exemplar. To illustrate hyperreality, Baudrillard often turns to Disneyland as a perfect model. Unlike a mere replica, Disneyland is a simulation that precedes any real-world reference. Baudrillard argues that Disneyland is not a copy of reality, but a simulated experience that shapes our perceptions and expectations. Analyze Baudrillard's interpretation of Disneyland, considering how the theme park encapsulates the essence of hyperreality. Explore the idea that Disneyland constructs a world divorced from the messiness of reality, offering a curated, hyperreal experience that influences our understanding of what is real. Media, images, and the proliferation of simulations. In a media-saturated world, Baudrillard contends that images cease to be mere reflections of reality. Instead, they actively construct our perceptions and shape the hyperreal spectacle. The media, in his view, contributes to the proliferation of simulations that exist independently of any authentic referent. Baudrillard challenges the notion that media merely reflects reality, asserting that it actively produces and disseminates simulations. Examine Baudrillard's critique of the media's role in manufacturing hyperreality. Consider how images and representations in advertising, news, and entertainment contribute to a world where simulations become more influential than the realities they purport to represent. Explore real-world examples where media constructs hyperreal narratives that reshape our understanding of events. Implications for politics, society, and individual experience. Baudrillard's theory extends beyond cultural phenomena to influence politics, society, and individual experiences. In a hyperreal world, political events can become spectacles divorced from their real-world consequences. Baudrillard challenges conventional notions of truth, authenticity, and agency, suggesting that we inhabit a world where simulations dictate our perceptions. Investigate the implications of hyperreality for politics, societal structures, and the everyday lives of individuals. Consider how Baudrillard's critique shapes our understanding of contemporary phenomena, from political theater to the construction of self-identity in the digital realm. Explore real-world instances where the hyperreal spectacle impacts political discourse, societal expectations, and personal narratives. Critiques and responses. Engaging with Baudrillard's hyperreality. While Baudrillard's theory has left an indelible mark, it is not immune to criticism. Some scholars question the potential nihilism embedded in his ideas and the practicality of navigating a world where distinctions between real and simulated collapse. Additionally, critics argue that Baudrillard neglects the agency of individuals in shaping their realities. Explore critiques of Baudrillard's theory, considering whether hyperreality leads to a sense of meaninglessness and whether there is room for agency within a hyperreal context. Assess how Baudrillard's ideas have been embraced, contested, or adapted in subsequent discussions on postmodernism and cultural theory. Consider alternative perspectives that seek to reconcile hyperreality with agency and meaning. Legacy and contemporary relevance. Despite the critiques, Baudrillard's theory of hyperreality continues to shape discussions in philosophy, sociology, media studies, and cultural theory. Assess the legacy of Baudrillard's ideas, considering their enduring relevance in an era characterized by virtual realities, social media, and an ever-expanding digital landscape. Examine how Baudrillard's concepts have influenced subsequent thinkers and continue to resonate in contemporary discussions on the nature of reality, the impact of media saturation, and the evolving dynamics of representation and simulation. Consider how hyperreality remains a relevant framework for understanding the complexities of our digital age. Conclusion: navigating the hyperreal landscape. In concluding our exploration of Jean Baudrillard's theory of hyperreality, it is essential to reflect on the profound implications of living in a world where simulations often eclipse reality. Baudrillard challenges us to critically engage with the images, representations, and simulations that shape our perceptions, urging us to navigate the hyperreal landscape with a discerning eye. As we grapple with the consequences of media saturation, digital technologies, and the constant proliferation of simulations, Baudrillard's insights invite us to question the nature of our reality and the role we play in constructing the hyperreal spectacle that surrounds us.